Mr. President. Prime Minister, first of all, thank you. Thank you for your strong pro-European message at the end of your intervention. I think we believe very much in this Greek presidency because Greece is the symbol of Europe. I should say for the best and for the worst. Your country gave the name to our beautiful continent. And at the same time, let's be honest, the last years your country represents also the biggest threat crisis the Union ever faced. You could even say, if I may do so, you did it yourself, so I can repeat it, the Greek crisis is a little bit the quintessence of the European crisis. A lack of discipline for a long period, a lack of solidarity for a long period, and foremost, I think also a lack of unity, because let's be clear, I think that we would have no Greek crisis, no European crisis, if the political class in Greece would have taken their responsibility far earlier than they do now. And at the same time, if also the European leaders and the European national elites have shown their full solidarity from the beginning of this crisis in 2009. And we have to tell that both failed in that respect. And that is the reason why we have this tragedy today. Because it is a tragedy. Huge unemployment. Young people in Europe for the moment that I see were telling, I want to go outside Europe. There is my future. Not longer inside the European Union. Also rising populism, rising nationalism, growing racism. And let's be realistic also by the figures that we have seen and that we can see today on the economic field. I expect personally a long period of low economic growth, a little bit what the Japanese has faced in the 90s. Nothing less, I hope, nothing less, but nothing more either. And that is a tragedy because, let's be honest, this crisis is a European crisis. There is no crisis in the world. China is growing, India is growing, the US is growing, Japan has a growth figure of more than 2%, and fortunately even the African continent have growth figures of 5 and 6%. So we have a collective responsibility here of the European leadership, and let's face it, also of the Greek political class in what happened the last years in Europe. First of all, of the Greek political class, because, let's be honest, the reforms have been undertaken too late. There is still a clientelist system in Greece, still an oversized civil service in Greece, still a huge state ownership in Greece, still professions were closed for newcomers. And instead of doing these reforms, certainly in the beginning, the only thing that was done was moderation of low wages, increases of taxes of small and medium companies. So I hope that these reforms can go forward and that you go not back to the bad receipts of the past. But mistakes, dear colleagues, have been made by ourselves too. And I think the most important error, and we have to recognize that today, before the Greek presidency, is in December 2009. By not immediately backing Greece, by openly talking in January 2010 about a Greek exit, and that has created grave consequences. A long period of financial instability. This financial instability in Europe for 2 years was created because we were not open and solidar with Greece, and we have created the impression that countries could leave the Eurozone, that countries could leave even the Euro system and the European Union. So it may be cynical to say, Mr. Samaras, but you are in a quite unique position. You are in fact now in the Greek presidency, and you can apply all the lessons you learned in Greece to reform the European Union. You are in the best position to tell your colleagues, no, don't do this. Please, do a banking union, because you know what are the consequences of a lack of European Union and a lack of unity. And so my apply and my request to you that is that you put your priorities on three things. First, the banking union. I shall not repeat what said Joseph Daul and what said Hannes Swoboda. This proposal that we have today, sorry, that's not a proposal that shall create confidence in the banking sector. And you know what the main problem is for the moment in Europe. That is a block transfer mechanism between the banks and the real economy. And you don't restore that transfer mechanism if we don't meet and establish a real banking union with a single resolution mechanism, not based on national resolutions but on the proposal of the Commission. And I can tell you we are united here not to accept an intergovernmental patchwork. It has to be a communitarian proposal, and you have to go to Berlin. It's there that you have to convince people that they have to put another vision and opinion in place. Secondly, a new economic governance model. A model that converges and not diverges, not these contractual arrangements that create animosity against Europe, but a convergence system. And then finally, third point, that's my request to you, speed up the integration of our markets. Single market, telecom market, bond market, and also labour market. More labour mobility. You know, dear colleagues, labour mobility in Europe is what? 2.8% only. 2.8%, while in the United States of America it's 3 times more. We have more than 2 million vacancies for the moment by a lack of labour mobility, and at that time Mr. Farage is coming here and saying, oh no, it's a problem. This 2.8% is too high. It's too high, this 2.8%. It has to be lower. He wants to block labour movement, and a number of you want to block growth, you want to block wealth creation. So I can only say, and that's my conclusion, Mr. President, that it's luck, or maybe it's bad luck, that at the time that Mr. Farage's ancestor crossed the channel, he was not in charge of the immigration laws, because otherwise they would never come in Britain, and he was never a British citizen. Thank you.